Hi, everyone. Welcome to our Kick Ass Leadership Series, episode 13. And if you're not already subscribed, please go ahead and subscribe so you can get all the good stuff that we're sharing. Today, we are talking about some more communication tools and techniques. And the one today is really about open-ended questions and the power of open-ended questions. And it's something that is, again, so simple that we overlook a lot. So, Jen, I would love you to share with our followers and our friends what are open-ended questions and why are they important?
They are so incredibly important. Open-ended questions have the power to transform every conversation that you have. So an open-ended question is basically a question that does not ask for a definitive yes, no answer, true, false, or a one-word answer. It's a question that is designed to elicit a more elaborate response from the person that you're communicating with. One of the biggest gifts that you can bring to anyone inside of communication is the element of curiosity. When we're curious, we're showing interest in the other person. We're showing genuine concern for what they're thinking, feeling, or experiencing. Open-ended questions are the key to basically expressing that curiosity and having that person the space to speak.
Absolutely. And I think it gives an opportunity for somebody. You said to elaborate, and I think it gives them an opportunity to create.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it's like if you're given this choice or that choice, you feel like you're contained, you're in a box, versus when it's open, all of a sudden there's some space to maybe get outside of just the A or B choice or the yes or no choice.
100%. And in addition to having the space to create, it also gives the other person the option and the space to explore.
Yeah.
Because so often when we are asked an open-ended question, the whole, that's a really good question response. Because what it's doing is it's actually making the person ponder, like, I hadn't thought of that. What am I thinking? Or how is this occurring for me? Or what is my experience? And so that's even more of a gift for that person because not only are they able to figure out what's going on for them, they have a person who's actually waiting to hear the answer.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And as we're talking, Jen, I can hear certain people saying to themselves, I don't care what somebody's thinking. I just want the answer because I don't have time to explore.
Yes,
And so I want to address that because it's a very fair point. Sometimes we need to be quick and precise.
yes.
And when you are asking questions of somebody, typically you're trying to get to some type of answer to move things forward. And I think we have a misconception that if we give this choice or that choice, it's quick and we move on, when in reality, it could be further complicating a situation where maybe you need additional information to get to an answer that's better, but you need to take a little bit of time up front to give space for that exploration to happen to get to a better answer than the quick answer.
Exactly. And it's somewhat short-sighted if you think about it. Because it's like I need efficiency, I just need to get this project done, or I need the answer because I have to move on. And in that moment, you may get a savings of time because you get a quicker answer. But the answer could actually be very misleading.
Mhm.
Because with closed questions, there are often assumptions either on the front end or the back end. So if I ask you a yes no question, like, hey, Shayna, do you need help with that project? And you say no. And I go off thinking everything's fine.
Mhm.
But maybe you didn't need help, but there actually was something else that you needed. But I
Mhm.
didn't give you a chance to express that because I asked you a simple question and you answered me honestly. So then only later I spend more time now having to address what you could have expressed in the first place.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so maybe if you want to sort of shift that question instead of, do you need help with that project? Maybe it's, how's that project going? Right. And you're kind of opening it up for somebody to share a little bit more.
Yeah,
Right. That's another way to sort of reframe the same idea, but now you're eliciting me to share with you what's going on.
right. Or you could say, how's the project going? What, if anything, might you need to keep it on track?
Yes.
And you can say, oh, I don't need anything. Or you can say, actually, I just need, it might even just be physical resources that you're
Yes.
running out of.
Yes.
So if you could just get that for me, that would be super helpful. But asking you if you need help, you don't think of the physical resources that you need. You're just thinking, oh no, I don't need help. I'm all set.
Mhm.
This comes into play, especially the idea of assumptions, a lot when people are inquiring into how somebody else is thinking, feeling, or experiencing something. right? Like we all think we know how everybody else feels, right? That's the human experience. And what I always say is 99.99% of the time, we think we know what somebody's thinking, we're wrong.
Mhm.
But if you're behaving a certain way that to me appears angry, for example, and I say, well, Shayna, are you angry about that? And you're like, no. Well, what happens in a lot of cases is the first person now starts arguing, yes, you are. And then it becomes an argument about who's right over what the person is feeling, which is kind of ridiculous. Whereas if I were to say, Shayna, how are you feeling right now? Or it occurs to me that you seem angry. I'm curious how this is showing up for you or how you're feeling about this. You might say, well, I'm not angry. I'm frustrated and I'm hurt. That's an extremely different experience that could look the same to me.
Absolutely. And I think also what you're describing, in a way, it's funny, even when you ask that question, are you angry? I think it can put the other person on the defensive. I even felt it now, even though,
Yeah.
even though I'm not angry. I even felt it, right? Like it's like you're making an assumption about me, especially if I am feeling some type of conflict related emotion. Now I'm really feeling it because you've just given me two options that don't really fit, which makes me feel maybe unheard or unseen in some way versus an open, hey, I'm noticing this thing. What's going on? Like, and leaving it open for me to be able to articulate to you what's happening and for me to feel that you're truly holding space for me.
Well, exactly. Because if I were to just say, hey, are you angry? You might think, well, no. And in your head, you might say, no, I'm frustrated and hurt, but she doesn't want to know about that. So I'll just say, no, I'm fine. That's where
Exactly.
the proverbial I'm fine comes in.
Absolutely. Yes. Feelings I'm not expressing. Fine.
Well, I've never heard that before.
Yes,
Yeah,
yeah. The other place I'm thinking about it as we're talking is actually in like in an interview process or getting to know somebody. I remember sitting in an interview and it was like, do you have this skill? Yes. Do you know this software? Yes. Have you ever done this type of work? Yes. And then you walk out and you're like, this person knows nothing about me. Right, versus like, tell me about a time when you were able to implement this software, right? And it's like, okay, now I can share with you a little bit of who I am and what I know. But we sometimes just think, well, like I just need to check the boxes and get through. And it's like, wait a minute, you're missing such color to the picture so that you have a better idea of what somebody is going through. And it's in that type of dialogue that we get the richness of conversation to allow us to move forward and make decisions and do the things that we need to do because now we're allowing that ability to have a full dialogue versus just it's this or that.
well, exactly. And it comes also back to that whole conversation of efficiency, right? Because if we can extract more of that information, if we can interview somebody with curiosity for who they are, so that you can truly assess whether or not they're a right fit for the role, it could save you. We all know what the cost of a bad hire, right? Or let's say even a bad hire, just an inappropriate fit hire. It might be a great person who's just not a fit for the job, but you didn't find that out during the interview process because you never really got to know the person, and
Mhm.
vice versa. It really expands the place, or the space for conversation, for expression, for efficiency. um, I feel like closed-ended questions do have some play. Where would you see closed-ended questions being inappropriate?
So if it's something where there's like not a lot of wiggle room, so like, what time are we meeting for dinner tonight? Right? It's not like, well, tell me about how you're feeling about our dinner time, right? It's like we're planning to meet at 6 o'clock, right? Something like that. I say to my kids, like, did you brush your teeth? I don't need a full elaborate answer. I just need like a yes or no, which is a little bit different from something about how can I help you get ready for school? You know,
Right.
that's a different type of conversation that's being had. So yes, there are places where it's like information gathering in the sense of there's a very clear answer that we need to get at.
Yes.
That's where it has space. But typically, in more of this type of conversations we're talking about, it's so much more beneficial to be able to have that open, creative conversation.
100%. I mean, we all need laser focused logistical answers. Did you submit that email? Yep. Okay, great. Done. But yeah, the efficacy, the efficiency, and quite frankly, the interest of a conversation is just exponentially expanded when we start to come with curiosity and inquiry and giving people the space to express. Like, what bigger gift is that, really?
So to wrap this all up with a bow, this beautiful gift that we are sharing today. Again, subscribe. We'll share more information. We've got some more communication techniques coming down the pike. And thank you all for joining us today. Have a
Yes,
great one,
thank
Jen.
you so
See you
much.
soon.
Such a great conversation. Take care. Bye bye.